Here.
Vice Mayor Jody Lee.
Here.
Mayor Vila.
If we can, I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we can get on our biz. And review and discuss the strategic plan and update. Mary Lisa? All you. And I'm sorry, we don't have the pads out here. If anybody has a question, just flip your name plate up.
Vice Mayor, I would like to introduce our esteemed consultant, Herb Marlowe. He'll be conducting the session today.
Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Marlowe.
Appreciate it. Herb, please. Well, thank you for the opportunity to work with you today. I'm looking forward to having really a conversation with you about your city and direction. I'm going to give you an overview, and then obviously one of the first things we have to deal with the reality of money and what your financial situation is. And so Mary's going to give you an overview of that. Then we're going to come back and discuss the items that I would like to discuss with you. But let me find the remote here. Well, no go.
You have to turn it on the side.
On the side? Okay, that's it. All right. As we discussed, all you really talked to me about, there's really what I call a foundational goals. That's stability of leadership here in the city. And many felt that needed to be addressed before we can really do much more. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that this morning. I don't want to do it because I think it's important for whomever your manager, he or she becomes in the future, to really have a good understanding of your thinking about the city and the various realities that he or she is going to have to address here. So after we have that conversation, then I'd like to talk about what I call the leadership agenda. I'm not phrasing these as goals necessarily, but things we need to say so that your manager understands this is what I'm going to have to face. I've got to be able to address. And as you choose that person, you want to be able to say, okay, this person brings the skills and the background to be able to address this. And he or she can know that you see these as critical issues and be prepared. So after we talk about money for a while, I want to come back and talk about these things with you and anything else you'd like to discuss today. But my goal is that we walk out of here with a pretty good sense of where the commission is on this, so that as your managerial candidates come forward, they can understand where you're at, and they can say, I fit or I don't fit, and I have the skills for this or I don't have the skills for this, so that you get a good fit. Because if you want stability, that fit really matters. If you don't fit, it's just not going to work. And that's a lot of dimensions to that, and we can talk about it, but that's why it's really important. So that's my agenda for today. But again, we'd like to begin with the other reality that you have is all of this depends on the financial resources to be able to move forward. So Mary, if you'll come on forward. And she's going to give you kind of an overview of where you're at financially. Whoops.
Good morning. Oh, that's okay. I can use it on the computer here. This first slide is taxes levied by classification. This information is from the Volusia County Property Appraiser's Office. For 2024, the taxes levied for residential homesteaded parcels is $21 million, and non-homesteaded is $8 million. Commercial taxes levied is $1.7 million. The second chart shows the taxes levied assuming a 10% increase in taxable value for 2025. Strategic planning is the strategy, direction, the goal setting, and the allocation of resources to meet those goals. The annual budget is a comprehensive expression of the direction set by the Commission and is prepared based on staff's understanding of the goals set for the city. I'd like to begin by reviewing the 2024 budget, beginning with the citywide revenues, expenditures, and capital project expenditures, and then discuss the general fund revenues and expenditures, possible changes to revenue sources, and the estimated changes to fund balance. Next, I'd like to report on the 2025 budget highlights, things that are new this year, and review the budget calendar. And lastly, I'd like to review the 5-year capital plan. The summary will be in dollars, and then we'll discuss the major projects. For 2024, the operating revenue citywide is $124.8 million. The two major revenue sources are property taxes at 37% and the water and utility service charges at 25%. Tax revenue includes property taxes, business tax, sales tax, gas tax, and utility tax. The other sources of revenue are from license and permit fees, impact fees, grants, fines, and charges for services.
Mr. Vice Mayor, could I I have my thing up because I need to ask a question regarding this right here. Thank you. But I'm trying to find out where we are. At some juncture, we understood that the sewer service charge is at 25%, right? That it was the maximum that we could go according to what statutes, or don't let me misspeak, statutes or rules from the state or county, whatever it was, that we could set the service charge up to 25%. At various times, because it's so punitive, we talked about breaking that out and looking at what that would be if we lowered that by 20% or whatever. Did we ever, in fact, get a cost on doing that? Because we have some people that are very, very burdened by this right here. And I know that we have the ability to do it, but just because we can doesn't mean that we should. And I think that at one time, when Mr. Peters was here, we looked into lowering that service charge to maybe 15%, at least giving a 10% tax break on that. Did we look at what that would do to our enterprise fund if we did that?
Are you talking about the surcharge for people who live outside the city of Deltona?
Yeah.
Glenn, do you want to address that? Because I know you brought that up the other day.
No, we are, this year, we're going to have a rate consultant come in and do a updated rate study, because we're in the last year of the automatic, or not automatic, but it was approved by the commission for the rate increase. Mm-hmm. The 25%, there's a bill in the state right now in the House, and I believe it'll be moving to the Senate before too long to actually do away with that 25% surcharge.
Right.
And if that happens, that would be around July the 1st of this year, roughly.
Okay, so just here's the thing. The Senate is fickle. Sorry, just watching bills for the last few years. And what I would like to do is for us to be a preemptive leader and consider lowering this to 15% on our own, even before. You know what I mean? Because if they do away with it, we're going to have to do away with 25% of this out of the enterprise fund anyways, right? And at 15%, I think it's a goodwill gesture if we could talk about this and talk about going ahead and putting this in our budget, or planning to put in our budget in case it doesn't pass in the House. I would just like discussion, workshop, whatever, Mr. Manager, you think's best.
Yes, ma'am. We are going to engage the rate consultant here pretty soon.
Okay. What is pretty soon?
I would say within the next month or so.
Okay.
Because we need to be ahead of the game for everything, with the reduction, the proposed law. So.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, okay. Maria. Thank you.
Commissioner Villa-Vasquez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So that question was related to residents that do not live within this Deltona area?
It was in reference to outside the city limits where we serve water and sewer for certain subdivisions, Pine Trace, Autumn Woods.
Correct, because I do remember that conversation, and we were approached, at least I was approached, by residents within the city limit, and their question was, what do we get for that? Why do they get a discount? And if we live in the city of Deltona, why don't we get the same discount? So we got to look at both ways.
Yes, ma'am, and that's what we'll do with the rate consultant. We'll look at it both ways. We've got to make sure that we still meet the revenue requirements for our bonds and everything else, our projects that we have out there. So all that will be taken into consideration.
Thank you.
I go one more time, and after that, we'll wait for the presentation to be done.
Sure.
We can go through a question.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead,
Vice
Commissioner.
Mayor. Mr. City Manager, if I'm not mistaken, we did do an analysis on this before a rate study was done on this, and it didn't affect the enterprise fund as much as it did the residents' pocketbook. 15%, if you break it down, what the administrative costs are, the true operating cost, what those are, 15% covers those operating costs. I know, I did the math, I was on this, I understand succinctly what it meant. 10% is fluff, and when I say it's fluff, it means that we can charge that. That's why we charge 25%. We went to the upper limits. I've been banging on this for 4 or 5 years now. So when I say that I understand, based on the actual budget rate work done by the rate consultant last time, the city of Deltona can do this. And the reason that we don't do it for everyone inside on sewer is because outside it is punitive. It's not applied equally as to what the rates are. Outside the city pay for more. Why? Because they don't pay taxes inside. But the 15% out of this 25% covers those costs. So I'm looking forward to the rate study again, and that's why we're doing what we do.
Mary.
Okay, thank you. For 2024 budget, the operating expenditures, this slide lists it by function. Capital outlay is the largest use of city funds. $36 million is budgeted for major improvements, infrastructure and equipment. Physical environment and public safety are the next significant uses of funds at $29 million and $28 million respectively. The capital budget, this is by function also. The largest expenditures for capital costs is in the utility. Deltona Water, 43.6%, followed by transportation at 27.3%. Capital expenditures are for new construction, expansion, renovation, or replacement projects for existing facilities. Project costs can include things like cost of land, engineering, architectural planning, and contract services needed to complete the project. Purchases of new or replacement of major equipment costing at least $5,000 or with a useful life more than 1 year is also a capital expenditure. This is the general fund. General fund revenue is budgeted at $66 million and is the city's primary operating fund. The largest source of revenue is from taxes, $42.5 million, followed by intergovernmental revenue at $12 million. This fund accounts for all financial resources except for those that are required to be accounted for in another fund. This chart shows the detail of the tax revenue that was just on the previous slide, and it's also the license and permit revenue. I've highlighted the revenue from utility tax and franchise fees, which total $13 million. If this revenue source was eliminated, in order to maintain a balanced budget, there are two options. One, find an alternative revenue source to replace the income, or two, identify services, projects that are deemed unnecessary and reduce expenditures by $13 million. Taxable value by property class. This slide is from the Volusia County Property Appraiser. The largest tax base in Deltona is residential at 85.9%, commercial is 5%, and 2.8% is vacant land. Expansion of commercial growth, Amazon. On December 16, 2019, the Commission approved Resolution 2019-68, Economic Development Agreement between the City of Deltona and Amazon.com Services, LLC. Amazon invested approximately $122 million in the construction and equipment of a warehouse, which resulted in new job creation. The agreement provided for an ad valorem tax reimbursement for both real property tax and intangible property taxes to the company over a period of 5 years for an amount not to exceed the sum of $3 million. In 2021, the taxes paid to Deltona were $766,930. In 2022, the taxes paid were $812,266, for a total of about $1.6 million. The number of jobs created at the project site is 1,631. The average wage paid to an employee is $33,850. The estimated cost benefits as a percentage of wages is 17%. 2022-23 final tax roll. This information is from Volusia County Property Appraiser. And although the city of Deltona serves the highest population in the county, and we also have the highest millage rate, the average taxes levied per capita is lowest in the county. So the top line is Deltona. We have 7.35 as our millage. Our total taxable value is about $4.6 billion. The total taxes levied is $33.8 million. Our population is about 98,000. Taxes per capita is $343.29. This is the general fund expenditure. It's a summary by function. The budgeted costs for the general fund expenditures are $53.7 million. This chart is a representation of where the funds are spent by function and the cost per capita. General fund, about $10 million is the cost to maintain the general fund. Planning, building and code enforcement is about $6 million. Public safety, the cost is about $28 million. Transportation is 3.5. Culture and recreation is about $6 million in expenditures. Changes in fund balance for the general fund. This slide shows the estimated change in fund balance over the last 2 years. The budgeted fund balance is estimated to decrease by $11.6 million. This is due in part to the transfer from the general fund to other funds. New for 2024 are the transfers to stormwater and solid waste from the general fund. This is just a graphical representation of the slide previous on the general fund. Changes in fund balance for special assessment funds. These two funds are supported by a special assessment. This is stormwater and solid waste on the property tax bill. It's supported by a separate special assessment on the property tax bill. This is a separate line item from the ad valorem tax. The stormwater assessment fee is $128 per year. This rate has been in effect since 2019. The solid waste assessment fee is $202.80 per year. This rate has been in effect since 2018. Special revenue funds are intended to be self-supporting. However, in '24, the general fund transferred $2.5 million to stormwater fund and $1.3 to solid waste. Staff will be recommending an increase in the two assessments for fiscal year 2025. For budget year fiscal year 2025, things that are new this year. The citizen survey. In response to citizens' requests for a greater role in the budget process, we are implementing an online survey which will be available at www.deltonafl.gov. Residents will be invited to respond to survey questions to share their concerns, priorities, and ideas to improve the quality of life in the city of Deltona. Next is a scheduled budget workshops. January 20th, today. This is the beginning of our budget season with the strategic planning workshop. On March 11th, we have a 5-year capital improvement plan workshop with commissioners. On May 13th, we have a special assessment fee workshop. And the June 24th through June 28th will be a budget workshop with commissioners. The fiscal year 2025 proposed budget calendar. January 20th, that's today, it's the strategic plan workshop. February 12th through the 14th, we hold a 5-year CIP meeting with department directors and the interim city manager. On February 29th, the citizen survey is due. On March 1st, budget preparation begins. Budget materials are made available to departments. On March 11th, we will be holding a 5-year CIP workshop with commissioners. The whole month of March, departments complete their budget submittal packages. Finance completes the preliminary budget work. On March 31st, this is the deadline for the budget package to be submitted to the Finance Department. Goals and objectives, department summary, personnel requests to HR and Finance, capital requests, the 5-year CIP, an organizational chart, and performance measures, and a detailed line item budget. April 22nd through the 26th, we hold budget review meetings with department heads, the interim city manager, HR, and the Finance Department. On May 3rd, the building department supplies to the Finance Department a list of properties for the nuisance abatement assessment. On May 9th, the proposed personnel changes meeting with HR Director, the Finance Director, and the interim city manager. On April 27th through May 10th, this will be the compilation of the budget data by the Finance Department. On May 13th, we will hold the special assessment fee increase workshop. May 20th is the first commission meeting. This is the preliminary rate resolution for special assessments for stormwater, solid waste, street lighting districts, Lake District special assessment, and nuisance abatements. On June 1st, the pre-preliminary assessed taxable value letter is received from the property appraiser. On June 21st, the proposed budget books will be distributed to commission members. June 24th through the 28th will be a series of budget workshops with city commissioners. By June 25th, we will send out a notification letter for non-ad valorem increases, if any. They must be sent out at least 20 days prior to final hearing. On July 1st, Form DR 420 is the certification of taxable value that we receive from the County Property Appraiser's Office. On July 15th, the regular City Commission meeting will be to vote on a proposed millage rate and also the annual rate resolutions for special assessments, non-ad valorem. So it will be the proposed millage rate, stormwater assessment, solid waste assessment, street lighting, Lake District, and nuisance basement assessments. By August 2nd, due to the property appraiser, is the preliminary rate resolution for special assessments. By August 5th, due to the property appraiser, is Form DR 420 with the proposed millage rate, and Form DR 420 MMP, which is the maximum millage rate. By August 24th, the property appraiser mails the notice of proposed property taxes, the trim notice, to residents. September 4th, the City Commission meeting. This is a public hearing, adoption of the tentative budget and millage rate. This must be done between September 3rd and 18th. It cannot occur on the same day as the school board or the county. September 11th through the 15th, this will be the publication of the budget in the newspaper. It must be done within 15 days after the tentative budget hearing. September 16th is a City Commission meeting. This is a public hearing to adopt the final budget and millage rate. It must be done 2 to 5 days after publication in the newspaper. By September 19th, due to the property appraiser and Florida Department of Revenue, is a certified copy of the resolution adopting the final millage rate. It must be done within 3 days of the final hearing. By September 30th, this is the deadline to adopt a final budget. Within 3 days of receipt, Form DR 422 is completed and certified to the County Property Appraiser's Office. By October 15th, the EDR report is due to the state's Economic Development Report. By October 16th, due to the Department of Revenue, via their electronic e-trim process, is Form DR 487, which is certification of compliance. DR Form 420, which is the maximum millage rate. It must be done within 30 days of the final hearing. In the last section is capital improvement projects by fund. This is the 5-year CIP fund. It is a plan for 2023. The total is $38 million in planned projects, and going over 5 years, the total is almost $204 million. The 5-year plan, these are the major projects. In the municipal complex for 2024, the large project is for land acquisition, budgeted at $5 million. For 2025 through 2028, discussions are underway to assess the need for an additional fire station and fire training grounds. In the transportation fund, 2024 large projects are the Rhode Island Extension and LCAM shoulders. For 2025 through 2028 are the LCAM and Catalina elevation projects, plus there are numerous smaller projects. We anticipate receiving grant funds to offset the cost of these projects. And stormwater, 2024 through 2028, there are numerous projects that sum to a total of $38 million. And lastly, in the water and sewer fund, most projects are federal and state regulated. The total for 5 years is $118 million, and we anticipate receiving grant funds to offset the cost of the projects. A review of the 2024 budget was to provide the financial framework to proceed with the strategic planning process. We look forward to the 2025 budget process that is inclusive to all interested parties. A carefully crafted budget calendar has been presented, and we are committed to staying on track. I'll be happy to answer any questions. If I don't have the information available at the moment, I will research and get back to you.
Thank you. Commissioner McCool?
A couple of questions, Mary. Thank you, first of all, to you and your staff. This is a great report visually. I have some questions. The first one that I wanted just to go back to on here is the, hold on, let me get back to this question here. 30 days. Let me ask you this. When we're talking about the municipal public service tax franchise fee, do you remember what the cost to that for a resident is per year? Like what that, when we were talking about doing away with this, I don't remember who brought it up, but someone brought about doing this. So we'd have to shoulder and reallocate or cut whatever, right? $13 million without this. So I want that to be brought up again because I don't remember who brought it forward, doing away with this franchise fee, but there's a way that there's a reason that we have this. So in looking at that, I wanted to know also, when does the tax rebate to Amazon, can we state again for the record when that expires? Is it this year?
It's $3 million or 5 years, but going back to that slide, we're already ahead of schedule. I anticipate in 4 years we'll reach the $3 million threshold.
So when is that 4 years? Because how long have they had that now? 3 years?
Well, according to the contract, I think they built it in 2020. Mm-hmm. The first year that the taxes were levied were 21. So it'll be 21, 22. We're going to reimburse them this year, which will probably, I believe, about $800,000 or $900,000. Mm-hmm. So next year will be the final year that will reach the $3 million threshold. Okay. So it's 1 year earlier because they're paying more tax than anticipated.
All right, so can we go right here? You're on this slide here, the final tax roll here. Our millage rate is the highest. Our total taxable value, I see that, is the second highest, Daytona Beach. The total taxes levied, and then the taxes per capita are the lowest. Can you explain logically the reasoning for that? Is it the taxes per capita low because of the valuation of property, or the homestead exemptions? Can you explain the correlation between us having the lowest taxes but yet the highest millage rate?
Okay, this is in total summary of tax. This doesn't take into consideration homestead exemption. There's a lot of different exemptions. This was just illustrated to show you the number of population that we serve. We serve the most people in the county, but this is, if you take the average per person, we pay our tax levy is the smallest.
And that is
based on
due to population. Okay.
And of course, it also is based on taxable value, because if you look at Daytona Beach, their taxable value is 8.4 billion. Now, this includes everything. This includes commercial, industrial, agricultural. It also includes tangible tax. So this is just illustrative, so you can't draw any conclusions and say, oh, I only paid 343. That's not what I was trying to show here.
It's just breakdown per capita based on population. I get that.
Correct.
So it's not justifying the taxable value, it is only deducing the per capita, correct?
It's just illustrative. We serve the most people in the county for the less amount of taxes per person.
Okay.
That's the only takeaway from this slide.
Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? The changes in fund balance. Transfer in, transfers out, okay? So I want to go here, stormwater and solid waste, the transfers in and out, net transfer of $18 million. And can you explain that? Because if I am not mistaken, due to the absence of the assessment, this is what we had to cover. So can you please suss that out?
Okay. The general fund covers operating expenses, meaning revenue, and the expenses, the day-to-day, like personnel, equipment.
Yep.
And then the dream or the goal is to have extra revenue, which goes into fund balance to fund things like capital projects.
Right.
So, and typically, the municipal complex fund, parks project, and capital replacement is funded every year out of fund balance. And municipal complex was higher this year than average. Parks project is typically between 2 and 3 million. Capital equipment replacement is generally about 3 million. It varies a little bit depending on the city needs. Stormwater and solid waste are special revenue funds. That means their revenue source is from a particular source meeting the assessment. It's generally independent. It's supposed to be self-supporting. This year, because of a number of different factors, mostly that we have not raised the revenue over the last number of years, but costs continue to increase. So those funds needed to be supplemented by funds from the general fund. So this year was an unusual year, and that's the reason we make the case to increase the assessment.
Right, and so going into budget this year, I just wanted to make sure that we were very clear about this, because there was a lot of fear last year regarding the stormwater and the solid waste assessment. First of all, we had to send a notice out that was just unfriendly to our residents. It freaked them out, and we had people showing up here thinking that, the worst, right? I understand that it's a small amount, but when you're talking about somebody on limited funds, I understand that it's scary. However, with that being said, this year, we're going to continue to have to take this out of general fund unless this assessment is done here, which is what I want to go to the next one, the change in fund balance and special assessment here. Right there. So I want to talk about this again. How do we know, because I know that $6 million in projects in some areas, high focus areas, and Mr. Wickham, I think you know where I'm talking about, Abbey Terrace, and yes, I'm going to be completely transparent. This is in my district, but there are flooding concerns that have been there forever, and this project keeps getting bumped down. So there are people out there flooding in their yard. There is, we tried to acquire property, but that didn't happen because of an ongoing water situation. And there are places like this, Lamplighter, there are places like this. We have places down by Dewey Boster Park that are groundwater. The table is high, and it's constantly wet out there. So we're trying to address these. And the only way to do that without affecting the funds, the general funds, is to do the stormwater assessment and solid waste. Solid waste, I would say that we've already had talks about doing someone else or looking at different options for solid waste. We talked about that last year. But what I want to talk about is making sure that in presenting this assessment, that we need to make sure that like we did last time, that we have accessible either online, on phone, or in person for people that have questions about this. The bill needs to, or the proposal needs to be presented in a different way that is much more user-friendly to our residents, because it was just fearful last year. So I want that changed when we talk about moving forward. I understand why the notice went out the way that it did and the verbiage,
Right.
but I think that with the feedback that we had last year, it wasn't presented. I think that we need to do a presentation before the official notice is sent out. I just want us to think about that. When it comes, anytime we're digging further into a resident's already strapped purse, I want us to make sure that we're explaining why, that we can explain the reasoning, that we can be way, way far ahead preemptively, because it gives them time to prepare. It gives us time as a city to prepare for the feedback that we receive. And I just think that we need to be very cognizant of that this year, if that can be noted from everybody. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Mary. Did you want to say something?
Nope.
Okay.
I just was going to say message received.
Sure. I think if you go to the next slide, the 2025 budget, new this year.
Oops, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Too far.
No, I just wanted to say something. There you go. I see the schedule right here that we have. Two things. Thank you very much for this. I understand, and we need to recognize, and we need to fall on the sword, that last year's budget process was probably the most horrible in the eyes of our residents, in the eyes of us being prepared, in the eyes of transitioning. And I understand that there was a reason that it was done, and that staff had nothing to do with that. Staff was doing as they were directed, and I understand that, and I think that this year will go much better, especially given this calendar here. Two things I would like to be made crystal clear. Citizen survey, thank you for that. I would like to make sure that it is available perhaps in analog form for those that don't go online, if there's some other way. And I would like to also ask that, because the budget is can be such a fearful process, and I just mean by people that don't understand, and we have a lot of smart residents that want to be involved in this process, that have some very good ideas that I've watched over this year. And I would like for us, we see workshop with commissioners, I see that. What we need, however, as we move forward in 2024, we need a way for the residents to have immediate feedback. It's one of the things that is missing. They get up and they have good questions and are limited by time constraints, 2 minutes or 4 minutes. We don't do the back and forth. But this year we absolutely need to do that as we're moving into the process of getting a new city manager. We're moving into trying to shed some of our old dysfunction. We have promised our residents transparency and feedback, and I think that somewhere in here we need to schedule an actual sit down like we're doing right now, where we have staff here and where we have that people can actively engage in back and forth. Our public is starving for that. They do have time to redress us, but as far as the budget process, it's the single most important thing that we do on a yearly basis, and they need to count on that process in order to feel engaged and empowered and embraced. And I think that this year we need to make time in one of these to do that. Don't call it a workshop, because that sets the constraints. We need a meeting with our public for input one time in this process, if we can bring that up at a meeting and get consensus on it or whatever, because you guys have it together this year. This calendar is amazing, and thank you for doing this, right?
Well, we have this every year. This is not a new.
Yeah.
I'm just sharing this with you.
Last year, like, it was a different process than this.
Well,
and
it
this
would
is-
just get changed by the different priorities.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I'm saying. I knew that staff,
That's why we would like to adhere to this
Yeah.
calendar, because if we don't, it puts our staff in a compromised
yeah,
position.
I get you, I understand. Thank you for doing this, and I think that that's it. I just wanted to say that I'm good with that. Oh, also, Mr. Wickham, at some time, if we can talk about when we have the 5-year planned major projects. I don't know when the appropriate time, because I didn't bring it up at the last meeting, but we need to talk about the TPO process also, why we're not engaging, okay? We need to let the public understand why we're not seeking any funds from TPO, or we're not submitting any projects. And I think that we can just say now that it is because we are engaged with finishing up projects in light of getting a new city manager in, and we don't really have any to push forward to the TPO under TPO guidelines at this time. I think the TPO will be understanding of that also, given what we're trying to complete. So I just want that out front too. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Next. Go ahead.
Mayor, if you can take me back to my first, at the start.
Okay.
No,
Is this
go
the
back
one?
to go very top.
At the beginning?
Yeah, very beginning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go down one.
How about this one, leadership agenda?
Yep.
Okay.
No, the one
One
up
more?
earlier. I'm sorry. Up.
Okay.
Back up. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to begin by talking about one of the things y'all talked to me about was really the need for long-term stability at the city manager level, and below that, department heads. And obviously, you're in the process of searching, or begin that process. But you each talked to me about why that was important for this city. And you obviously been on interims for a while. You've had quite a bit of turnover. And one of the things that happens anytime you have management turnover, things sort of start again, or things stall out. It's just the nature of that. It's not just Deltona, it's any local government. When the current manager leaves voluntarily and involuntarily, there's a period of interim, and then the new person comes, and that person needs a bit of time to know the city, know the priorities, all that, so things slow down. And obviously, you will have some of that, but you really want to not prolong that. You want to get some stability. So I'd just like to have a conversation with you about why that's important, and what do you see, if anything, that needs to be done to ensure that whoever fills this position next is in a good, strong position, can hang here a while. Because these projects are long-term. Nothing you have up there significant is quick. This is government work, and it's years. Vice Mayor, begin with you.
I'll go this way. I'll start with.
All right.
Commissioner Vila-Vasquez.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So the problems we're having is that the change of city managers. We start projects and they end when that city manager leaves.
Okay.
So if we were here at a project that we were working on, when the new city manager or interns, if it goes down, because now this new person has to bring himself up to that standard to understand what the projects are, how the city wanted them done, and so forth. This time around, we were lucky, because even though we lost a city manager, we still had the people in charge of who were doing the work when that city manager left.
Okay.
So we're still
up.
right there. We're still up a little on that level. And it's not only city managers change, but it's also commissioners changing. I can tell you that my CRA project, I've been here 5 years now, and I probably, from 5 years, if it was down here, it probably moved this much.
Okay.
Because it is in one district, but for some reason, other commissioners don't agree with what needs to be done in that particular district. So that CRA project has been frozen for a while. There's been some changes, some work done, but here again, new commissioners come in and they feel that that tree doesn't look good in that spot, or the benches don't look good, or for whatever reason. But us being in the background, we can see that it affects, every time something changes, it affects the projects 100%.
Okay.
It affects the staff, because now they have new management and they have to get used to this new management, new directions. And I think that this time around, we need to try to do better and try to, hire a city manager unless the current one wishes to apply. But
And we won't ask him that today.
but and the relationship with staff is also very important because it affects, even though you might not think so, the relationship with our leaders, city managers, commissioners, has a big input on the progress of the city. I can tell you that as a former manager, as a former employee, you can see it, right? He's not being nice with me. He's not being nice, so I'm going to prolong this. I'm taking my time with this, so I'm not going to do it this way. We've had problems with city managers and staff, which has been very negative. And I'm looking forward to having somebody that can get along with our employees, our commissioners, have a lot of respect both ways. Commissioners with our city managers know their levels, know their line that's crossing. That's why there's a chart, right? There's a charter and there's a chart. I believe in respecting our chain of command.
Okay.
And I think going through that can make things much easier, the process easier with our leaders and the city managers, our directors, and our staff, following that chart. And also with our residents.
Okay.
Also with our residents. And that's...
So for you, there's some real keys to stability. One is sort of respecting the process.
Absolutely.
And everybody staying in their lane.
Absolutely.
If you're a policymaker, you stay in policy. If you're an administrator, you stay in administration. If you're a line person, you stay in operations. And you don't try to get out of your lane.
Every organization has a flow chart. And that has to be respected.
Okay.
And I think it'll make the job smoother, and everything will run in a smoother situation. And I believe that more will get done. If you have a city manager who has to be babysitting everything around the city with commissioners and with other staff, that takes him away from his job. And it makes the jobs much longer to get processed. So I think that's the important thing going forward.
Okay.
We all need to know where our position is.
Okay.
We all need to know where we stop. Where is the line that we stop and wait there for more instructions from there going forward.
Okay.
And I think that will move us and make our projects go faster and get finished faster.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Commissioner Colvin?
I agree with Commissioner. I think we need to get stability back into all of our departments and our department heads so we can move forward and getting projects done. It's kind of stalled us, this big turnover. So I'm just going to kind of mimic what she said there.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, again, so it's the internal process, it's the culture of the organization,
right,
where people respect their various roles and not try to get involved in other people's business. You do that. And I will say, the organization I've worked with that do that, they really are very productive. They get a lot done because everybody's got their job. They know what it is and they stay with it. So thank you.
Commissioner McCool?
Thank you very much for that. I believe that I understand the org chart very well. And at the top of the org chart are the people, period. Everything else flows down from there. The people are not an also. They are a number one priority.
Sure.
The largest problem that I see that we have is not department heads instability and not even city manager instability. It's instability up here on this dais when you talk about leadership, because this is the most forward-facing leadership that our people get to see. And the amount of dysfunction that sits on the dais right now is like, it's problematic, to say the least. And there needs to be a way for this commission to build consensus together on these projects, because not everyone has the same idea of where the problem is. And until the problem is identified, I don't care who you put in here as city manager, I don't care who you put in or recruit from department heads, I don't care about that. You're going to have instability because this commission is the most forward-facing interaction that the public has and the representation of the public. And until we become cognizant of that, admit that we have a problem. We're sitting here right now, 3 down. We should have 3 more people sitting here today, and we don't. Whether they don't take it seriously, whatever the excuse is, we should have a full bank of sitting commissioners here, save one that's gone, obviously, for health reasons that we're trying to replace. But we can't even get an admission of that. We put it off on somebody else. Okay. The staff does their job just fine when they're not harassed and when they're not trying to be directed by anyone other than the city manager. The city manager does fine outflowing when he is presented problems. They take it up where it's supposed to go. Okay. But it is an interference of the commission. It is missteps on the part of the commission. It is the blundering on TV that our people see that's embarrassing. And I'm just putting it out there. I'm part of the problem. I had a live mic the other night and uttered a 4-lettered word because I was frustrated and angry. And not only that, walked out before the gavel was down at the end of the meeting just because I was so frustrated with the whole process on a project. So until we get a grip on ourselves and understand what our position is, because we have failed to do that, then I don't care who you put in here, it's not going to be solved. We have to be thinkers, we have to relate to the public better. You can't go bossing staff around, and we gotta stop that. Okay. We have to stop, we fight with one another. It's horrible and it's embarrassing. We look like clowns. And until there's the admission of that and the understanding of that, until there's this struggle, there's a power struggle that goes up here on the dais because everybody's afraid their project's not going to get done, their pet's not going to get named, that they're not going to get recognition. It's ego-driven. It is not community-driven. And I don't even know a better word to say. It just really sucks. Okay. And who suffers? Our city suffers in the face of... When you talk about Deltona, what do you hear? And I'm being real here. You cannot fix a problem until you admit that there's a problem, because we can't get it together.
So you got 3 colleagues sitting here.
Yep.
Do you all see it the same way? Do you see it differently? Different dimensions? I mean, just talk to me about that.
You know what? I probably stand alone on that. I believe that everyone thinks they're doing their job, and we're failing because there's some reason that we have so much pushback. We have failures that we just don't tackle, that we don't hit head on. And until we build consensus together and are on the same trip here, our staff suffers for that too, being pulled in a lot of directions, getting directions from other people. I mean, it just is. So we either admit that we have a problem and say that we have a problem, or we sit here and act like we don't have a problem. And we're going to waste our people's time, and we're going to waste our staff's time. I understand what we're here for today, but your number one thing here is leadership stability. And we are, again, the forward-facing leadership that needs to embrace what we have done wrong and try to right that before we can bring anybody else on board. I'm done.
Vice Mayor.
Before I go, I noticed we have a couple of people from a couple of residents here. Anything y'all want to say?
Yeah.
Come on up. See, we don't normally ask people for a certain time, so I'm going to ask the residents. Questions being proposed. There's some of these people who have been watching these meetings for years. Sorry for changing things.
Dory Howington, Deltona. So recently we've kind of seen what's been going on, the infighting and everything that's happening within the commission. It's distressing. As a resident, I mean, this is what people are seeing outside of Deltona when they look at us as a city, and it's embarrassing. I've had coworkers that live in Lake Mary that have watched our meetings, and they come to work, and it's just things that they say. It's like, how can you even defend it? The words that are coming out of people's mouths, giving up people's addresses that are not published, these things make a difference, and they hurt us. We as residents are being hurt. The city manager decision that we have to make, probably one of the most important in District 2, that's another huge one. We need to not be playing games, and right now we're playing a lot of games. And I don't know how we fix that. And I'm sorry I'm so frustrated, but this has been kind of a big one for me, because it hurts. As a resident, we moved here because we love our community. My husband grew up here. We came back to raise our family here. Spent a lot of money, and we expect to be here for at least 20 to 40 years. And it's just scary what we're seeing. So please, if I can ask for one thing of everybody on the dais, is please try to work together, help bring our community together, and help us grow. Because that's what we need right now.
Okay.
It's disheartening. So please, help us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't plan on addressing anything, but I think a lot of what was said is spot on, especially when you talked about the flow chart and how some people need to stay in the lane of what their responsibilities are. But I'd also like to point out that you, as a commission, your responsibility is process and procedure. So it baffles me that year after year we've asked to bring forward process and procedure issues and correct them. And we say it's great and sounds wonderful, but nobody takes the action needed to actually do that. I'd like to touch base, Jody, when you talked about workshops, and Dana, when you talked about time limits. One of the biggest problems that we're seeing is Deltona obviously is not like many other cities, so I think we need to change the processes a little. Workshops is where you're supposed to be having your feuds, where you're supposed to be hashing it out, where you're supposed to be asking all the questions, so that when you do come before a commission meeting, on the day of a vote, you absolutely should already know the questions. You should already have the answers. It shouldn't be right there before you take a vote that you're still asking questions and you're unclear on what the vote is. That's insane. That happens at a workshop. And so the 4 minutes should happen at a workshop. And personally, maybe even more than 4 minutes if you really want that community engagement and you really want to hear from the residents. But right now, it's not functioning. It's clear it's not functioning. Most of my comments today would have been on the budget, but we're already past all that, so I'll save that for later. But I think I would like to see more of us looking less at how we can bring in more revenue and more on how we can correctly use the revenue we're bringing in, because I see a lot of mismanagement still, a lot of just wasteful spending, and I'd be willing to talk to anybody about what those are. I've said it for years. So, thank you.
Let me, if I may, build on that, Vice Mayor.
Go ahead.
What this woman just said is really pretty important, because one of the reasons governments use a lot of workshops is so you can hash this out. You know, y'all have 7 strong people. You know, you are. You know, you wouldn't be sitting here if you didn't have that ego strength. And you see the issues very differently, and that's all good. You know, if y'all saw it the same, we'd only need one of you. You know. But the organizations that work really well on the dais, they have a lot of workshops. And I know it's time consuming, and you know, when you run for office, you don't really realize what you're getting into sometimes. But it does make a huge difference, so that you've worked it out. By the time you get up there, you know, you sort of know where everybody's at, and you can vote it up, vote it down, and move on. So I guess as you talk about this, to me, there are a couple of structural things, because from my understanding, this is not just endemic to you guys. I mean, this has been a pattern in Deltona city government for a while, as I understand it. And so I do think we have to think about, what about the structure? What about the process? This is unfortunately, one of the consequences of single-member district models. I worked with Broward County when they moved from 5 elected countywide county commissioners to 9 single-digit commissioners. And you know what happened? Now you had 9 people who were only concerned about their district. What happened citywide didn't matter to them, because they didn't get elected from those folks, you know, and so it puts enormous pressure on you. So there are a couple of structural issues here. Vice Mayor.
I guess now it's mine.
Yes, sir.
There's a whole bunch of it. Leadership, city workers, non-city workers, residents. It's everybody not working together, period.
Okay. All right. So it's a broader community.
It's a majority. We have all the elected people. Everybody have their own opinions on things. Mm-hmm. Now, me, I don't sit here and scream, my residents, I don't. You know, the people in my district, I get it, I have to fight for them. But every vote I'm going to make affects everybody in the city. So it's not just about my district and people that live in my neighborhood. I might say something that affects somebody all the way across town. So I have to think about that all the way around. Good. Whether it's traffic, whether it's cars, whether it's people, all of it. Other things are the commissioners up here. We all bicker and fight in between. People get on Facebook and we lambaste each other and call each other names, and then we have to work together and wonder why we won't want to work together. Well, if you get out there on social media and you start hashing another commissioner, sorry, we're human too. If you say stuff about me and then you want to come up to me in my face and be my buddy, you know that's not happening. Don't stab me in my back and tell me you're my friend. That's just a crock. You know, everybody here wants to go and try to tell him the city manager what to do. No, it's not our. We tell him what to do at the meeting. We can't direct him to do nothing. We can voice our opinions on things. You know, I talk to staff all the time. People say I'm directing staff. I come to the building a lot. I talk to everybody. I'm not telling them to do a certain thing. I might ask them questions. We have staff, department heads in this building that don't even want to work together. They have their department, and they won't even intercommunicate without a fight. All this stuff needs to come to an end. Between the dais fighting with each other, the dais fighting with the city manager, the dais fighting with residents, we're supposed to be here. Our residents don't come and fill the meeting because they're supposed to have faith in us to make the right decisions so they can worry about their lives and put their food on their table, gas in their car, pay their bills. They elected us to make the right decisions for them. And we're too busy trying to pontificate how wonderful each one of us are. Well, that's not what it's about. It's about making the right decisions for the people, whether it's stormwater, whether it's trash, whether it's our taxes, whether it's code enforcement, whether it's the electric, whether it's the sewer, the water. We're supposed to be making the right decisions for them, not just for however I look good at the moment. We need to stop all that. Okay. And that's, the city manager is a big thing. But I think if everybody wasn't here trying to play the part of being the most important one, we would probably get along much better.
Okay. All right, well, a couple of points there. Let's follow up on those. One, it's sometimes it's the behavior outside the meeting, whether social media or whatever, where it creates a problem. So one of the choices you have is not to engage in that behavior, just not to make comments on each other, you know, and be neutral about it. You know, whether you agree or disagree, just be neutral. Because you are human beings, and sure, if somebody says something bad about me, I remember it, you know, and I might say something bad about them, you know. So, I mean, that's one step. The other, I forget who told me this, but said be real careful about the assumptions you make about your colleagues. Because it's sort of the nature of business. You assume I'm voting this way because I'm mad with you, so I'm going to vote against you. Or I'm voting for this because she and I have a friendship or something. Often that's not true. I'm voting because I have a set of reasons. It has nothing to do with anybody else. You know, I believe this is the best thing for the city. So I think be careful about the assumptions you make is another important thing. So how you behave outside, how you behave on the dais is critical. I mean, I just got to tell you, that sets the whole tone. Because if y'all are fighting up there, the public thinks that's how you do it. You come in and you fight. You know, and some folks like that. Some folks, I don't want to be in the room. They're fighting, you know. And when staff see you fighting, that's why they're hiding in the back of the room, you know, so you can't see them. You know, so the behavior on the dais is really important. It sets a whole tone for the city. But you're right. I mean, it has to be from the viewpoint of we're here trying to make the best deal for the city, and you know, we have to assume that about each other, even though you may come to very different conclusions about what's the best.
Right. A lot of stuff comes to the dais, you know, if it's on the agenda, and there's times that we make decisions, sometimes they're rather quick. We come to a vote rather quick. Well, that just shows that we're actually doing our job, because there's a lot of times the agenda comes out, you have plenty of time to research, get to the bottom of stuff, get the questions answered, instead of coming up and fighting for a half hour over something you should have checked into prior to the meeting.
Okay.
We get the meeting. A lot of times, granted, it gets published at a certain time, but if you want, most times you can find out ahead of time what's going to be on it, so you can research and do the background instead of making it a 3-hour ordeal for something that you could have had all your questions answered prior to the meeting. If you have questions, go ask them now. We have the right to talk to staff in the city. We can't direct, but you can go talk to the staff and get all your questions answered prior to a meeting. And that would save a lot of aggravating and bickering back and forth like children.
Well, so another step you could simply take is make sure you do your homework. You've read it, you've got your questions, you've got your, because it is and for those of you who've done your homework, I can imagine how frustrating it is when it's obvious a colleague hasn't done the homework. And you're spending time up there, and you've already spent 3 hours on this and had your questions answered. And I think, to me, that's just a remark of respect for your colleagues. Do your homework. So do your homework. Don't snap at each other via social media, etc. The other thing, I would encourage the mayor and vice mayor, who's ever sharing the meeting, to ask people when you're coming, what do you think is in the best interest of the city? I truly believe everybody's coming at, you have different answers, but I think each believe this. I think this is the best interest. Have folks explain why it's in the best interest to do that. If they believe it.
But our meetings, you can see what's in the best interest. If we talk about raising the taxes or something, this room will be full.
Yeah.
Because it's in everybody's best interest to pay attention. But that's when they pay attention. Because most times, like I said, we get elected to represent them. They're so busy now paying for these crazy insurance rates because nobody's paying attention to insurance in our state. They're worried about putting food on our table, the inflation, paying for all this. They want us to make the right decisions. They don't want us up here fighting like children. If they want to watch people fight like children, they'll stay home and watch their own children. That's what we do.
Our WWE.
Commissioner Reveal.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So, there is such a thing as an agenda review opportunity that we have before our meetings. It can happen a week before or during the week. And that's when you get a chance to sit with your city manager and anybody that's on the agenda, whatever department it's being addressed, you have the opportunity to ask the city manager to have staff to participate in your meeting, in your agenda review. That's the time when you ask the questions. I know that I sit up on that dais and people might say, she never talks. That's because I already read my research. I asked my questions. And when I notify the city manager, I will ask these same questions at the city meeting because I want it to go on record. Whatever we discuss in private doesn't go on record. So it has to be brought up at the city manager's meeting. But that's the opportunity where you do your homework, like they were saying right here. It shows that you are being informed, you do your research on everything. And it's true, you create a board so that you can have different opinions, right? If you are going to run a board by your own decision, then you don't need a board. And not everyone is going to agree with everything everybody says, but we have to learn to agree to disagree and agree with something that is beneficial for the city or the residents. Because sometimes what's good for the residents might not be good for the city, and vice versa. Sure. So we can agree to disagree up at the dais, but the final decision has to be that we all agree to do what's best for both sides. And I think that's what's lacking right now. And respect, absolutely. I think that's what's lacking. And then hold it personal against each other because we didn't vote the way you wanted me to vote. Well, I'm sorry. That's what I was elected for, to vote what I felt was the best way to vote. And we have to learn how to walk out of that dais and say, good night, have a good day. Instead of not having respect for you, because how dare you disagree with my decision? I mean, it's ridiculous, and then make it known. So that's my feeling about it. I come here, I smile with everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, whatever, and I forget what happened at the last meeting, and just move forward to new ideas and new decisions.
That's another real key that you just articulated very well, is don't personalize this. Because one of the things that happens if you personalize these things, it will get to your mental health after a while. You think everybody's starting to be after you. Mr. Caldwell?
No,
okay. All right. Well, I'm waiting for the Vice Mayor to get back. Let me just acknowledge, this is a complicated issue. It's a cultural issue. I appreciate your candor about it. Y'all have identified some really critical things to do. Watching your off-meeting behavior with each other, doing your homework, respecting that folks come differently, and the fact that they differ from you, does not take that personal. It's not an attribute. To try to always be able to articulate, here's what I think is in the best interest of the city, and this is why I'm voting. Those are all good things. And I think to encourage all of your commissioners to do your homework. I think, just if the mayor or vice mayor or whomever is running the meeting says, guys, remember to do your homework next time, so that we have it, and really encourage that as an expected behavior. Those will all help. There's no magic bullet for this. There's no magic dust. It's evolved over time. But it is within y'all's power to change it. It really is. So let's take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll go on some other items. So, thank you.
Sorry, I changed it a little bit. Appreciate it. Give you props.
couple more, just last comments on the thing. Last year I worked with the county commission, having many of the same experiences that y'all were in terms of long meetings, back and forth. And one of the things they decided to do was to put time limits on themselves, 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and you could have a 5-minute rejoinder. And I worked with them again this year, and they said it's worked out really well. Their meetings are a lot more efficient, they're smoother, they're happier. So, that's another thing to consider. Another thing, Vice Mayor, from your comments about community, a number of communities, I use Pompano Beach as an example, have a code of conduct that they read out at the start of their meeting. And it applies to how the elected officials speak to themselves, to their staff, to the public, how the public speaks, with the idea that we all need to respect each other here. And that you don't need your staff berated. You should not be berated. You certainly don't want to berate the public. So again, that's something you might just want to look at and see how the other communities do it. So.
Yeah, see, we did a public decorum thing before.
Okay.
And the problem is we want residents to act a certain way, but we get up there and act like children. You want them to not do this, not to cuss and everything else, but at the same time, we get up on a dais and we do it. We want them to follow the rules, but we don't. That's the problem.
And assuming you're accurate, that is a problem. Everybody has to do it if it's going to work. So, I'd like to move on to the next real agenda, which is your tax base issue. We've had a little bit of conversation about that, but you see on the slide here, you're primarily residential. And that's a structural weakness over the long term. It's going to be a serious problem for you as you move forward. Because communities have a very difficult time being full-service cities with a primary residential tax base. Now, we want to look at that a little more breakdown. So let's go back to this slide. Y'all spent a little bit of time on it, but I want to go over it again. Because to me, it is a large structural issue that you as a body are going to have to address. And it's on the very last pages of your thing. I had it duplicated. Now, DeBerry is a nice outlier, and everybody wishes you had that. If you could just lift in a power plant or two, the world would be a lot easier. But it does show you the power of large industrial plants and what they can do. And so, they lucky they got it, but that does show you the power of an industrial element to your tax base. And you talked about earlier, y'all's millage is the highest. The per capita rate is the lowest. And again, that's a direct consequence of this high amount of residential tax base. You just don't have the tax base that you need. Now, y'all have I'm preaching to the choir here. Y'all already told me this, but I'm saying it back just for the record here. And you can see the difference. And look at Deltona, they have a very high tax base. Now, they obviously spend a lot more, and I'm not saying they're the most efficient government in the world here. That's not necessarily the goal. But it does make it a lot easier when you have a high tax base with a lot of commercial industrial to be able to really keep a lower millage rate, which is what people really look at. They look at the millage rate. That's where their numbers come out. So let's just acknowledge the structural problem for Deltona is the high proportion of residential. Now, Mary broke that out into, both. I'm going to go back real quick. You had the slide, Mary, where you broke it out. Can you give me the one with the homestead, non-homesteaded? One more. One more slide. Okay. Now, residential itself is not necessarily bad, but, our homestead policy here, which is all our advantages, homeowners, I'm not advocating getting rid of it at all, but it does create a limit, and it can only be 3% at maximum. So having non-residential properties is another variant. Obviously, the great advantage of home ownership is people invest in the community. You want that. It's good. But on the other hand, we live in a world where non-homesteaded residential is also an important component. And from a tax-based perspective, it's happening because you can raise those taxes, values can go up more. So that's a structural problem that y'all have to face, your manager's going to have to face, is that. Now, y'all have already talked about the way out of that. And so let's move from that to the outcomes that you talked about. Somebody said, we are what we are. We were built as a suburban community, basically. And one of your goals is let's be the best we can be in that, And I think that's a worthy goal. One of the things you see up there is about beautification of the entrances. Those things make your city look better. All those things, having a cleaned up city, the code enforcement, all those things are important to making it the best we can be. And you certainly want that. You've all said that. But the way out of this is really commercial and industrial development, economic development. And I'd like for us to talk about that some, because that's important. I break economic development into three pots, or three types. You've got what I call the locals. These are the mom and pops or locals that may have 100 employees. But they're good because these are the people who become the backbone of your community. They've invested in this community. They want it to be good. They're the folks who sponsor the kids' programs and all that. So you want those folks. And you want to do everything you can legally to help them get there. And obviously, infrastructure is one of the major ways y'all do that. The next group are what I call the retail chains, the retail corporations. I live in a town called Newberry. We're the third fastest small city in the state, growing, because they four-laned us between us and Gainesville, and now, that's what happens when you build a four-lane. And we're getting a Publix. Now, as much as city staff would like to say we got the Publix here, in reality, Publix did an analysis and now they expect 13,000 rooftops within that circle, and so they're coming. And that's the way of the retail chains. There's a number that they have to have. What have you talked to me about a restaurant, but they didn't have the lunch traffic when they did those counts, So for the retail chains, there's really, it's just a matter when they reach their numbers and they're going to want to be here. The difference is, as you talk to me, is you can ask more of those folks. They want to be here because they're going to make a profit, and you can't hold them up exorbitantly, but you can ask. You can say, we need this, and they'll do it. There's a McDonald's in this town in Massachusetts, and it's an old historic town, and the McDonald's look exactly like a historic home because they wanted to be there, and that was what they had to do to be there, and they'll do it. So you can really get a lot of design and attractiveness from forcing the retail chains to do what you want to do, and it's they're not going to go broke, and they're going to make sure they do fine. So to me, that's your second pot. Your third are the big high-value job folks. These are the folks you really have to go after and work hard, because those jobs can create 5 to 7 other jobs in the community. And when you get those, that's the thing. So to me, when I talk about economic development, I'm really talking about going after that market, because you have to be very active about that. Everybody wants them, and they'll make their decisions based on a number of factors, location being one, job, can they get the skills they need here, all that sort of stuff. But that's the key. So I'd just like for us to have a conversation about how y'all see economic development moving forward here in the city. What are your priorities? Where do you think the opportunities are? You have some land, if you've got plans about infrastructure, you may need to annex some land, et cetera. So if we can begin, Vice Mayor, I'll let you start however you want to start.
Yeah, one of the things that I think that we need to replace is we need an economic development person here in-house. We do use Team Volusia. I believe that process is very diluted in the fact that we need somebody absolutely dedicated to Deltona alone, because the investment in Deltona is going to have to come from Deltona. And if we parlay that money into a salary and add somebody that we can quantify and measure, because we have no way to do that. What is being done? I've met with them, and there's no way to quantify what's being done for Deltona. And this is one of our largest concerns here is commercial and industrial development. And we don't have anyone that is specifically focusing on that it eats, breathes, and sleeps our economics, what our economic goals are. The number one thing that I hear is, and I'm just going to say what these are, is stop the dollar stores, stop the fast food, and the residents are saying we don't want to be marketed as a community that way. We want to support small mom and pops. We want to incentivize. We give huge corporations tax breaks to invest in this city, and we need to have somebody that can focus on the both macro and microeconomics of how we grow that base, because our community wants that. We want sit down, and it goes back down to community, entertainment, education, and business, and it talks about gathering places. We do not have those communal, multi-generational gathering places, and that's what this community wants more of, and we need someone that can focus on that. We need someone in-house dedicated to us and us alone that understands how to market us, that understands what the goals are, that stays seated long enough in this community to understand what that vision is and following our strategic plan. The same to be said for commercial and industrial development. These are all specialized here. I don't think that you can any longer, because of the necessity of us getting that revenue in, farm it out to somebody. I think somebody needs to be dedicated in-house to do that understands commercial and industrial development. That's where I'm at with that.
Okay, well, thank you.
Commissioner Villa-Vasquez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And I agree with Commissioner McCool. However, and I'm not trying to take sides on this here as far as Team Volusia. I'm just trying to say that Team Volusia doesn't concentrate on small businesses. They go out to get warehouses that can pay more salaries and hire more people, like Amazon and all that area. We had someone, Jerry Mays, who did our in-house, but the difference is that Jerry concentrated on local restaurants and stuff, whereas Team Volusia concentrates worldwide, trying to sell our land to big commercial areas that the city can profit from, and as well as our residents. And I'm just trying to put the difference out there. The problem with us here having the sit-down restaurants, and trust me, because I've been out there, I've spoken to some of these restaurants, and way back when Jerry Mays was here, him and I spoke to a fast food restaurant, but it was a nice restaurant. It's in Sanford. And they came, they did their survey, and they came back with the same answer that many other sit-down restaurants come back with, is like, you don't have the lunch crowd. You have more people leaving Deltona in the morning. They're not going to come back to Deltona for lunch. And when they come home, they go home to take care of their families. We will not be able to survive just on weekend stuff. And then we have the option right across the I-4 of going to Orange City. We haven't given up. I know I haven't given up. I mean, I know I have one that I'm still trying to push. It's a nice sit down, but then again, on the other hand, we have to also think of trying to bring restaurants to the city of Deltona that our residents are able to take their families to. I just went out to dinner the other day with a group that we went out to a meeting in Deltona. My bill alone, and all I had was a simple little salmon with a little bit of rice and some string beans. And my bill was $50. I mean, I couldn't believe it when I received it. So that's another thing we have to consider about these restaurants that we're bringing in, that our families, local families, can take their children and their mothers and fathers to sit down and be able to afford these bills. And that's another thing that these restaurants look at. I'm not saying they're never coming in. They will be. I mean, Deltona, from going to Orlando and other places, I hear them calling Deltona the hidden jewel. right? Because right now in Volusia County, it seems like Deltona is the only one that has not been discovered.
Right.
So, repeating the words that I hear from them. We can't lose hope. We have beautiful property on the entrances of I-4, and that could possibly be one of those places where one of these restaurants might be looking at, and they are looking at. So hopefully, we'll keep looking, but to have an in-house developer, we have to pay them. We have to pay their salary. They have to go out, not only to Orlando, they have to go out of the state of Florida. They have to travel. They have to go out into other countries to get businesses to come into the city of Deltona. Can we afford that salary? So these are the things we have to look up before we get rid of what we already have helping us. And I'm not saying that we can't. I'm just saying that we need to concentrate on that before we start replacing what we have and stuff like that.
And one potential middle ground is y'all's person, but that person works heavily with Team Volusia to make sure that Deltona's always on the table, because they obviously have to be neutral with respect to cities. So,
Commissioner McCullough?
I agree with Ms. McCool here. We need to get somebody that's in-house, that's dedicated to bringing stuff just to our city personally instead of looking for the whole Volusia County area. We are very limited on commercial space, and we need to be careful moving forward, getting these people in here to do that. That's my take on it.
We do have the positions. Last year, Jerry Mays left when in 2023, about the middle of 2023, before I came over here. I am in discussions with Jerry about possibly coming back, maybe part-time at least, to try to help boost economic development. I've had applications, the jobs are open, they're posted for an economic development manager and an assistant for that department. So it's in the budget, it's not gone away. We're just working, trying to get somebody in here, and I need somebody quickly. Or we need somebody, I'm sorry when I say I, because there's no I in team. And can I say something real quick? I shouldn't, but I'm going to. It's probably not going to be very popular. I think that we all need to come together as a team, not only the commission, but our employees, our residents, everybody. We need to work together and move the city forward. We have these issues. You all have been talking about the issues Mr. Marlowe has brought up, and I think it's important. One of the first things I did when I came over here, and the staff that worked for me before know how I am about teamwork and how I am. And if y'all notice, when you come in my office, what I did right after I came over is I put 2 pictures up on the wall, because it was bare, okay? And I'm not big on pictures, but I put 2 visual pictures up there. One of them is saying we can't accomplish things, in not so many words, but we can't accomplish things alone. We alone cannot accomplish things. It takes a team. The other one is a picture, and this is the airplanes doing that, the aerobatics, and they have the different fall colors coming out, and it looks so great. The other one is climbing a mountain. It takes teamwork to get there, and that's what we need. We need to get along. We need to have the respect for each other. I respect y'all, and I believe y'all respect me. I know when you talk to me, well, some of you, but I know when you talk to me, you show respect.
It gets real
to me. And I'm saying this from the bottom of my heart. I'm being totally honest, that I really have invested a lot of my career here in Deltona since 1998.
Wow.
I left for a little bit. I got delusional, and I left a couple of years. But I came back, and I came back in the field. I left as I was a public works director. I came back in the field, and I worked my way back up, not intentionally, but it's the way it fell. And
Look at you now.
but you think about our city seal. Our city seal says something on it, and it says, proud to be a part of it. Florida, we talk about the great state of Florida, right? Well, why can't we be the great city of Deltona or the awesome city of Deltona? Anything. You can come up with anything, a slogan like that. But I am dedicated, as long as I'm in here, I can only do so much. I am dedicated to try to move the city forward. And I think we all need to be that way. We all need to get along. And I said it might not be popular, what I'm saying, but I think we all need to get along. We all need to work together for the same goals. We have goals with the city. We have a strategic plan in place that was put, 2 or 3 years ago. Y'all had meetings, and I wasn't involved. But I really think we can make progress in the city. When you get a new city manager, whether he or she comes in, I will more than be happy to work with them to help, transition this position. As long as I'm sitting in this seat, I will do the best I can. I'll make that commitment to each and every one of you, commissioners, vice mayor. I know the mayor's not here. I know others, a couple others, but I make that commitment to you that I will try to move this city forward. But I need your help. Help me, and I've said this to each one of you before. Help me help you. Help me help you. That's what we need. We need the cohesiveness. We need everybody getting along. I know it's hard, and I understand, just like you said, Vice Mayor, somebody says something on Facebook. I don't read all that stuff. I'll be honest with you, I don't. Because I know sometimes you get offended, people get offended, and people get on the keyboards and they may not mean what they're saying on there. They may be in the heat of the moment. How many times have we had, when growing up even, or even as an adult with our spouse or our family members, our kids? I got 2 grown kids with grandkids. That's how old I am. So, there's times that we don't agree, but we need to agree to disagree, and we need to try to move forward. And I'll leave that alone. So that's all I have to say. Sorry.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate your statement. I appreciate the candor. I think.
Now it's my turn.
All right.
Now, everybody here is right. Everybody that has said what they said is right. I mean, I think we need somebody that's strong and economic. It's been a problem for years. I mean, I'll have to give credit where credit is due to the staff lately. At one point in time, it was very difficult to do business in the city. Businesses did not want to come here. It was hard to get permits. It was hard to get inspections. The staff has changed that, so I give kudos to all the parties involved in that, because at one point, I mean, Commissioner Caldwell will tell you, he does contracting and construction. Nobody wants to do, at one point, wanted to do business in the city. You couldn't get permits. You couldn't get nothing done. It took forever. I mean, to get a permit for a fence was a 3-month ordeal. It's just insane. I mean, if you want to get a roof permit, you got to wait forever. If my roof is leaking, I need a permit now. I don't need one 2 months later. So the staff has revamped that, and I give them all kudos. It's changed a lot, and it's working for the residents better. The restaurants, we need restaurants. We don't need no more McDonald's. I don't need no more dollar stores, Taco Bells, no. But the problem is we can't force restaurants to come here. We have to make it inviting. And I'm sorry, just like the city manager search, if people tend to watch our meetings, restaurants are going to look at us at a meeting and you're out of your mind. A good city manager is going to see us at the meetings. You're out of your mind. We make our own challenges for these people. We create them on our own. We can't force, but we have to make it invitable for them to come here. They want to come here. Now, they're going to be coming sooner or later. We have so many developments with houses going up, all these HOAs going up, all these. They're going to come. They're going to see the writing's on the wall. Yep. But we have limited commercial space for them to come. I think part of it is we have to be very careful now, because I think Tallahassee is put a little thorn in our side with this live local thing. And I personally, in my opinion, I think the city should fight this tooth and nail. There's already cities fighting it. We have a little bit of space left, and now we're talking about our bills, our taxes, all the income, and now these people can come in and build these housing projects, and we don't get no tax money whatsoever. So now that's just going to add to the money that we don't have coming in. That it's going to cost us money to put out for roads, for streets, for all these different projects. So I think we have to fight these. I think our city should be one of the ones joining the crew of other cities that are trying to fight this live local thing. do believe it. I don't think they should be able to come in and take advantage of us and make other citizens that have been here for years pay their bills. So, but we need to work on the economics. And the Team Volusia, I'm the one that's on the Team Volusia board, elected from this commission to be the liaison for the city. And I've been asking for different stuff. I want to see some stuff, but we can't strong arm people and make them come here. And I don't want to do another necessary, like another company came here and they got such a good deal, but we made the residents that have been here suck up the bill. I mean, you have to give tax breaks, I get that, but I think it has to be more economically friendly to the residents that have been here, that have invested in our city. We should not be forcing them to pay the bill for a company to come here, and I don't think that's fair. That's it.
Okay. Well.
And sorry, one more thing.
Oh, sure.
Glenn, I'm glad you put pictures on your wall. The reason why the walls were blank is nobody stays in that office long enough. Sorry.
Well, it's a good faith part on your part then to put some pictures up. So, okay. Well, so clearly, the economic development, clearly if you have a person in there which Glenn's trying to get, that's what you can do. Clearly build the infrastructure. Clearly you continue to play in the Team Volusia, because they are the ones who go to Europe and do all that for you, So, that's a continued major effort there. And it will ultimately solve your restaurant problem. If you've got more people work here in the city, some of them are going to go to lunch, and that, you do have a lunch problem, and if you can get that. Okay. I'd like to talk about another part of this up here, which is gathering places. I did the strategic plan about 3 years ago. We did a lot of community input, and there was a whole lot of desire for, I use the term gathering places. We wound up in that plan calling it a gallery of villages, because the feeling was Daytona is so big, size-wise, that it was just not one spot, and that what really people wanted were more places around where you could congregate. Now, that doesn't mean you don't try to have a master place, but there certainly was also a desire at that time. I didn't use the term downtown here. People have used it. And obviously, some cities have created downtowns that didn't have them. I mean, that's not impossible to do. But it is important to have these spaces. So I'd just like to have a little conversation with you about what I call gathering places. Y'all can put what words you want to put on it to talk about. But that for the community to come together that they need. So,
Commissioner McCool.
Thank you very much. You and I talked at length about communal gathering places. One of the things that keeps us separated as a commission body, as a residential body, is the lack of places to gather. We have the best parks, I think, in Volusia County. Our Parks and Rec, our department doing those types of communal gathering, fantastic. With that being said, we need multi-generational communal gathering places. And I talked to you about one such. It is considered a food court, but it's called the Yard in Doral, Florida. And the Yard is an inside-outside gathering place. Or outside covered, tin-covered places. It's broken up into food kiosks. We have Henry's Depot in Sanford. What this offers at one time is 10 to 12 different types of food. So what does that do? It gives everybody more choice, which means that you can gather with more people because you're not forcing them to eat the same thing. There's an outside area to sit, which they have large games at. It's indoor, outdoor. There are desserts, inside cocktail bar. We need something like that to be multi-generational, where you can have, there's a safe place, their kids are playing outside, the adults can sit here and watch. Those are the types of places that we need, I believe, we need to focus on, because within these kiosks are not corporation kiosk. These are small mom and pops that this is a beautiful incubator for them to come in to try out the type of fare, different types of fare, what's going to go over in Deltona. It is a perfect incubation spot because Deltona has so many diverse cultures here that we need something that answers that call to bring everybody into that same gathering place. This brings everybody inside, outside. There's a place to have cocktails inside. You order your food from one of the kiosks. You come gather at an inside spot together. And that's what you and I talked about at length. Community events, entertainment, education, business, all of these types of gathering places. And I think that by having an anchoring incubator like that, it gives us the potential to explore what it is that Deltona really wants. Where do you want to focus? Where do you want that hyper focus to be? But we don't know because we keep populating our community with fast food, easy places to get to. And I understand that these places have their place in our communities. However, with it being inundated, it creates a food desert of diversity. And that's what we need because we are a very diverse culture. And what this says, the subliminal messaging that this sends, and I'm sorry, and I'm just going to say this, and it's nothing prejudicial, but it is a statement. When you have a community that is full of dollar stores, because every socioeconomic background goes to a dollar store. It's not for poor people. It is for thrifty, smart people. There's a place for it. But when you have a saturation of such business models, you put a label on your community that is hard to beat down. If you see Taco Bell, I'm not picking on anybody, but Taco Bell, McDonald's, I'm saying Burger King, fast food places, these are well known. When you populate a city with that, you become identified by that. And we are not that city. We must at some juncture say what we need that strategic vision to be. And we are not a fast food community. We are not a dollar store community. We want better and we have to market ourselves better as such. We want diversity. We want multicultural. We want multi-generational. I mean, there are cultures that aren't going to go eat pork. There are cultures that are not like burgers. It's not a thing. We need to reflect our community. We need to identify that in our community, and we've not put a hard stance down against in doing that, to have a place that we gather, and it needs to become important again.
Okay. So one economic development strategy is to essentially create an incubation site that, if successful enough, could turn into a restaurant. So, okay.
Mr. Caldwell?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I agree with it 100%. We need to bring more entertainment stuff for our community. I know that Parks and Recs was doing that at one point. Unfortunately, and everybody says everything is blamed on COVID, but yes, it did get blamed on COVID, and a lot of it stopped. Our Parks and Recs is now working very hard to bring more activities into the city of Deltona, which is a good thing, and they're concentrating on our youth. So they're bringing and have started a lot of different sports activity for the youth of that community. And I've noticed some flyers going out where they're starting a lot of activities for adults as well to keep our residents involved and entertained. One of the things that we lack here in the city of Deltona is a place to have those activities. We currently have one at West Crowd Park, but if you go to one of their sports events, it's overcrowded. Parents are watching from the door because they can't get in. So I think, and I believe in one of the projects, I think they're looking, or one of the visions is to create another indoor sports activity for these events, as well as outdoor activities. I know that, I forget which is the city that has become famous for their pickleball stadiums, right? I mean, I went there and took a look at it, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's about 10 pickleball sections where they play outdoors. And so that's one of the things that, the other thing that Parks and Recs was doing was having free entertainment. I think it's 3 or 4 a year. And they're going to start getting back into that at the center. We need to advertise our center a little bit more, and I asked for a report, which is going to be given out to every commissioners, as far as what kind of activities took place there last year and what's on the agenda going forward, what kind of reservations are being done at the center. The other thing that I think is beneficial, and I know that this is going to go in as a bad taste for some here at the dais, but I don't care what anybody says, we still need to partner with our local organizations and help them bring in some of their activities to the city of Deltona, so that we can show that we are partnering. And when I say partnering with, I'm talking about local organizations. I'm not talking about organizations from other cities. If our organizations are using our facilities and stuff, I think that they should also give back to the city of Deltona and do their activities in the city of Deltona as well. And I think Parks and Recs, I got to keep throwing Parks and Recs out there because they are doing really hard to come up with these plans to get the city residents involved in all these activities. One of the activities we're trying to bring back is the cultural festival that we used to have for 4 years. Unfortunately, I'm having a hard time trying to find these organizations again because of COVID, they broke down or whatever. We're trying to bring it back this year again. Everybody's been asking for it, even up from the dais. People are asking whatever happened to this multicultural event. So hopefully we'll find some cultural or folklore organizations that will come back to the city of Deltona. So Parks and Recs is working very hard, and I'm happy that I can be part of helping them put some of these events together. And I think that we also have the, and I don't know if I'm taking the thunder away from Parks and Recs and you wanted Mark Manning to come up and speak about it, but we do have on Friday at West Crowd Park the food trucks that are out there, you know, and I've driven around a couple of times, and it gets full sometimes, you know, people sitting at the table enjoying their meals with their family at a reasonable price and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that City of Deltona is trying to bring back to the city to give back to the community. And again, back to our parks. So I think we have the most beautiful parks in all of Volusia, accessible to ADA, and you know, we have our walk trails and stuff like that. So we just have to add more. And I think going back to workshops, you know, we need to listen to our residents and let them tell us what else can we bring to the city of Deltona to serve our residents. We've had a lot of comments from parents, and it's basically sports for our children. We need more. The more you keep a child entertained, the less trouble they get into, right? So I think that's something we can look into, and I don't know if the city manager wants to add anything else to that.
I'd say take everything that everybody said and put it together. There's a lot of things. The Parks and Recs do a great job. We did a food truck event a few months ago, and that went over very well. But it should be a variety of all different things throughout the whole city. Our city center should be used for farmers markets, swap meets, car shows. It should be used more. We spend all this money on this building, and I'm sorry, it's not used nearly as much as it should be used. And you know, there's the Parks and Recs do a great job on different events. I think our city should be doing. We should be doing a lot more events. There's no question. Even if it's a city putting on events, we should be doing such more events and entertainment for our city. Now we're talking about the entertainment area and stuff like that. You know, it makes it very hard because our city's already mainly built, and to so-called downtown area, it would be hard now. So somebody would have to come in and buy all kinds of land and usually demolish whatever's there and rebuild. That's not realistic. Because most people, unless you change the whole dynamics of our city, it's unrealistic. Someone's going to come buy a plaza, rip it down, rebuild it to make it this beautiful downtown when you have houses around it that were built in the 80s. It's not going to happen. It's unrealistic. Unless you have a whole new area that somebody just develops. So to come up with these downtowns, it's a great idea. I'd love to see it happen. But do I think it's going to happen? No. I mean, the education, the businesses and all that, I mean, it all goes together. I mean, you get businesses to help contribute to do all these events, and you have community events, and then you get the schools to participate, and the colleges to participate, and all these different people to participate together to do things for the residents. We are lacking very badly in entertainment and events for our city. For 98,000 people in this city, I mean, this meeting says everything you need to know. There's 2 residents here. There's 98,000 people. There's 2 people. I get more people that come to a yard sale at my house than to come to meetings. That says it all for you. When it you know, this whole thing this is what gets frustrating. We have these, of course, it's Saturday morning, so it's unpopular. But we do this. There's 2 residents out of 100,000 people, but yet when something doesn't go right, there's 300 people in here.
Right. Yeah.
But people don't pay attention along the way, but that, of course, goes to something else. We get elected to do the right decisions, and so it's a whole big ball of wax. But we are lacking in events, entertainment, everything. We need to put it all together and actually come up with ideas. And if someone has an idea, you don't have to, you know, even as a commissioner, you listen to residents. A commissioner can go and bring up an idea to like Parks and Recs or the city manager. We're not saying tell them to do it, but you can bring up these ideas. A lot of these different ideas for Parks and Recs, if they want to do events, they can come up with stuff. It doesn't always have to come to, we all have to fight about it and come to a vote. He can come up, hey, I want to do this event. Is it a good idea? Talk to the city manager? Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do it. I mean, we make our own lives difficult in this city. But our entertainment and community events for a city this size is embarrassing.
Okay. So, a major strategy that really starts to address... Oh, sure, please.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No?
Residents, y'all want to say something? I know, people want to leave on Saturday, I'm sorry.
Just hello? Okay, there you go. Just 3 things you touched on, one of which was this decorum policy. I've brought it up before. It's unenforceable. It's unconstitutional. I mean, you use very vague language that is left to interpretation. So honestly, it's about time to just remove that altogether and work on something totally different. You also talked about per capita, and I think it's important that we assess how you're coming up with the per capita. So I think it's important, can anybody separate per capita and only give us the per capita on adults? Because we have over 25,000 children and they don't bear expenses, right? So it's kind of skewed numbers if you're looking at per capita in every city and do a comparison, but we have 3 times as more children than another area. It kind of skews, you know, the math on that. So if we could just get per capita on adults, I think we might see a little bit of a different picture. Additionally, with the restaurants, I'm really getting tired of hearing it's the lack of the work lunch crowd. I mean, maybe 15 years ago, but that's not the case anymore. Our problem is in our commercially zoned areas, we lack infrastructure and sewer. They can't build there without the sewer. That's the problem, and I don't know why that conversation keeps getting ignored, but if you actually look at the facts, it's not so much the lunch crowd anymore. You know, not saying that that's not a partial reason, but that's definitely not the main reason. It's the lack of infrastructure and sewer in the commercially zoned areas. Thank you.
Commissioner Vila-Vasquez.
Thank you, Brandy, for that information. The lunch crowd information comes from the restaurants themselves. That gives us that reason for not coming here. And I agree with you. And that's why in the last meeting, I was so impressed to see that the county was getting involved in an issue with the city of Deltona, because they never do. And our biggest, most popular street is Saxon Boulevard because of the location. And that's a county road. And the city of Deltona, even before I became a commissioner, has been trying to get the county to help put sewers and gas lines, because restaurants want gas lines as well in order to open up. And they have totally been ignoring us. Totally been ignoring us. And I know that Deltona Boulevard, I know that that's on the city manager's agenda to look into, because unlike prior city managers who informed us that there is no sewer on Deltona Boulevard, there is. There is sewer on Deltona Boulevard. Most of those plazas are connected to sewers. Now it's our responsibility to see how we can work with those plazas. So it hasn't been deleted. I know it's on the agenda, looking at the CRA project on that. So yes, I agree with you. That's what's keeping our businesses away, the sewer system and the gas line system. Thank you.
Okay.
One other comment, and then did you have something to say? Well, I just want to make, we had and it doesn't help when false things are projected from here. It doesn't help our residents, the ones that are not at the meetings and watching, because we had somebody this last week that did a presentation. And I don't want to, I'm going to anyway, I guess, but the presentation that was it was such the most bleak outlook on our city. It made it, the presentation is 90%. We're all on social services and welfare, and all our kids are, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but what was projected with the numbers was unbelievable. Everybody here is in debt. Everybody's losing. I mean, it was an embarrassment what was projected. And anybody at home watching these numbers believes what they hear, but the numbers were so far out. I mean, 90% are in poverty. That's what it basically said. And we're all on social, we're all collecting some kind of welfare and stuff like that. And if people have issues, I get that. I understand it. That's what the system is for. But the outlook that was given about the residents in our city was a very bleak outlook. But Commissioner McCool.
Thank you very much. And to reinforce this, we do need that CRA structure down there. The sewer is desperately needed down there on Deltona Boulevard. I think that you, Commissioner Vasquez, have had the backing of the whole commission on that. I understand that's your district, but it's our city. And it is a major drive-through. It is a major lure. The plaza there on down into Enterprise, we need that. It's been requested. And as far as, I want to talk for a moment about the interdependence and the correlation and relationship between the county and the city. And it is my understanding, after working with the county, that it is the county's desire to work with the city on these issues. And I know that at one time, under a prior city manager, we had approached the county talking about what is the helpful share helping us down there in the CRA. And I think that it has to become priority to us to become priority to them, as you say, to work on that issue also. So moving forward, just for statement, I want to improve Deltona Boulevard. I want to engage the county to help. They're willing to help, and I think I think that they were helpful to us in a matter that we just visited them on, and I think it's the desire to work more with the city of Deltona. I understand that it's been a contentious relationship, and I get varying stories on how that started, but it's 2024, and I just think with the right cohesiveness and right vision that we're absolutely right to be able. We have great representation on the economic development. We have great representation as people working with the county that's in our staff right now, and sitting on the TPO has given me a whole new vision or idea or uncovering of what that interdependence looks like. So I think that you're right in the fact that we need to revisit and look at that relationship that we have, because that's where some of our funding is going to come from. And I think that the more we press that the more will be seen and heard, on these matters. So thank you for bringing that up. I absolutely understand where you're coming from about that. I know that there was frustration at the city meeting the other night regarding that, them just popping their head in when it was kind of convenient. But I really do believe that there is the desire for the county to work with Deltona. I think that they see our value, they understand our economics, and I just think that we need to revisit that relationship, with the county. And as much as we need to work on our relationship with one another, work on that relationship also, because it's going to be majorly important as we move forward. Federal cutting budget, you know what I mean? And it's all going to drift down from the state to the county. And I think that the more work we do now, putting ourselves positionally in a place to where we can demand more, not surely based on our demographics and population alone, but the strength of our cohesiveness. And I think that that's something good for us to work towards also. But I 100% agree on that. CRA needs to become a major need, for us to work on. Thank you.
Well, before I go to the next item, some clear message from all about events with the city leading, but where the private sector can be made forced to see profit there also. So you want to see more of that, because obviously it builds that. And what it starts to do, and we'll pick up on that last word, you talk about relationships with the county, it's relationships among your residents and all that you want to move forward. So relationship building. Let's just talk about public communication a minute. Clearly what Marie pointed to is a real effort on the staff to engage in a substantial public communication effort around your budget, which is clearly to some of the residents an item of concern. Are there other communication things you'd like to see happen from the city to outreach?
Well, I think communication in the city, there's always been an issue, but lately it's took a 180. I mean, the communication's starting to get better.
Good.
Between the city and the residents. Our city manager puts out communication reports and manager reports. I mean, people are returning emails and phone calls. Not all people, not all departments, but it has improved drastically on the communication. I hear it. I hear the good and the bad. I have emails and phone calls where somebody won't get back to them. They won't return my phone call. They won't. But overall, I think it's not perfect. Nothing ever is. But I think our public communication has improved significantly. I mean, it's not where it needs to be. Yeah. There's still a lot more. I mean, just this meeting itself. Mm-hmm. There was people just last night saying that it's going to be canceled. It's on. I mean, I mean, people didn't. Some people didn't come. Some people did. I mean, just last night people were saying this meeting's going to be canceled. So we all woke up this morning if there's going to be a meeting. But overall, the communication for projects in the city has took a significant improvement. The city manager letting people know what's going on, Ms. Phyllis letting people know what's going on, Parks and Rec, all the different departments letting people know what's going on in the city. It has improved significantly. It's not where it needs to be, but it's took a huge turn in the last few months to six months that people are being told more. There's more transparency. There needs to be a lot more transparency. Even today with this thing about where we're going to start with the budget and everything else, I hope we stick to this, because last year was a cluster. The communication's getting out there now and more people are paying attention. And as long as we stick to these plans and dates that we set up, it helps us a lot, even to,
It's a form of stability.
Yeah, I mean, the transparency needs to be there, the communication needs to be there, and it is improving. Not as fast or as good as we all want it to be, but nothing wasn't built in a day, and for how it was in the past to what it is now, it's a noticeable difference across the city. Okay. Sorry.
And one of the things, too, is there is a very adversarial and contentious relationship between government and public. There just is in this city. There have been a lot of things done in past relationships with leadership that has caused, there is just two apparent ghost sections of, of government and of public. And it is a true fact that in a city of 100,000, we have maybe about 25 truly active people that go into budget process, that show up week after week, that are on social media, because that's the largest platform there is for communication. It's also the largest platform for miscommunication. And, you know, I think that part of the adversarial is there are things such as lack of transparency. It seems to be the number one thing. We have contentious relationships regarding public records. You know, and it is my understanding, and it is my direct experience, that it's not due to lack of trying to cover anything up. It is usually staff hours. We've addressed that. That's just my take on that. But until that part of this relationship, and I mean relationship between public and government, is opened up and talked to, there are always going to be naysayers, but there are really intelligent people out there who feel insulted by not getting answers. And at the same turn of the coin, I will tell you this, there have been staff that has been vilified for doing their job. And so what happens is is like going through a divorce at the end of a relationship. You have more and more separation instead of togetherness, because there is a lack of platform in order to discuss these things. One of the most contentious natures of this dais is that we get together. This is the only time we get together in public meetings. There's no way to hash out, whether it be on a matter that is on the agenda, whether it be a personal matter. I mean, because we are dysfunctional in that respect, that there is no way, there's not a designed platform to get rid of those barriers that keep us apart. There is no way. We don't have a back and forth. Today is the closest I've seen with back and forth that we've had in the city, and it's so desperately needed and wanted to assuage some of the contentiousness, because it is. Now, there's always going to be, I'll say this and I don't care, there's always going to be tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist people that no matter what you do, it's just going to be that way. There's always going to be a bureaucrat. Yeah, there's always going to be a bureaucrat on the side of the government that no matter what always thinks that they know best, that they are in a hierarchy above the public. That's just the way it's going to be. But somewhere in the middle, they're the people that really want stuff to change, and I believe that some of those people are sitting in the room. But we must, of utmost importance, be able to have that platform to hash our differences out, you know, in a way that the public feels that we're not trying to violate sunshine laws, when we're simply trying to talk to one another, not necessarily about a project, but maybe a behavior that we all don't agree on, or that we agree on. And there is no way to do that. And so what you have is a discombobulated body that comes before people trying to act like we have it together when we are having contentious issues that there's no way to solve. And so what you see only is dysfunction because of that. Same with the residents. They have no way to redress that goes back and forth. Yes, they can sit meetings, but to redress their whole body, to have questions answered. Because when questions aren't answered, do you know what happens? It starts sowing the seeds of distrust, and then there begins that battle for contentiousness. The public wants an answer to this. Just get the answer, get it off the board, stop letting it fester. And we need to be better about doing all of those things. And no matter the effectiveness of leadership, it's not going to get better till these most basic human behaviors are addressed. We have horrible people that come and speak at these meetings, and I'm going to call them that. They're horrible people. And we have intelligent people that show up week after week and ask the tough questions that deserve the respect on finances, on decorum, on public policy. They deserve those answers. We're always going to have horrible politicians. We always are. But I just want the more reasonable people to sit down and be able to talk, and I want them to get their questions answered and start building trust. That's the only way that not all of this is for naught. If we don't stop attacking the people that serve, and I mean on both sides, the public that serves and the commission that serves, and even more importantly, the staff. I know that there have been staff members in tears because people on either side have told them what a crap job they're doing. They've called them horrible names. They called them liars. They called them, corrupt, whatever. That's simply not it. These are all humans sitting in this room, and we have forgotten that. We have been so busy making beasts of one another, guilty as included. But until that gets fixed, public erosion is just going to continue on until we address that honestly and factually.
Okay.
I have nothing to add to what's been said, and I agree that our communication is getting better. We definitely need a little more work in that area.
Good. Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Villa-Vasquez? Don't worry.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I have a request. So we seem to always have a strategic planning meeting and stuff. I would like to see the planning that was put together in the previous meeting. And out of that planning, I would like to have identify what has been accomplished from that point, and then take it from there. And I'm not going to take credit for this question because it was brought up to me by someone. So that's what I would like to see. What did we plan in the previous strategic planning, and what did we do from them? What has been accomplished, if anything has been accomplished? And can we start from that point? So if phase 1 was done, or if phase 5 was done, then maybe we can just bring that up. This is what was planned, this has been accomplished, and let's remove it, and then let's go back to the second phase. Because what we're discussing now was probably what we discussed in the previous, right? And the projects that we discussed then, I can tell you, is the same projects we're discussing today, with the exception, thank you so much to our city staff and our city manager for already working on the Lakeshore Drive project that can be eventually removed from here. But this is what I'm saying, like, we always having these strategic plans, and then I'm sitting here and saying, but we went through this already, that's old, this was already done. So I just need to, if we can have something brought to us to see what can we eliminate from the previous meeting that we had.
Fair.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
You're back on.
Let's talk about beautification. Go for it or against it?
Sorry.
I mean, this is another big subject because, I mean, beautification. A lot of our roads coming into the city are county roads.
Yep.
So we have entrances off the I-4. They look like garbage. There's other words I'd like to use, but I won't. The roads coming in, most of them are all county roads. And that goes back to our relationship with the county or the state for the exits off I-4, because it wasn't too long ago, the one Saxon was exit off I-4. That was disgusting. There was trash everywhere. You get off the highway. Oh, yeah, and I guess, everybody has to do something, but there's always people out there with their signs and their bicycles, and they leave all their trash there. They're begging for money at the entrance of our city. I think the nicest one would probably be coming by Skip Boots or 415 on Howland down there, because there's not all trash all over the place. Our exits off I-4 for Deltona, all three of them look like garbage. Now one on Howland Boulevard's a little bit better.
Not much.
Not much, but the one on Saxon and the one, that's disgusting. I'm sorry, it's an embarrassment. Hey, welcome to the dollar store capital of Florida, because I'm sorry, that's what it makes me look like.
It's your first impression.
You come in, but that's the county, their county roads coming in. We need to get with the county some beautification. If you look at the money of, we've been sitting up here talking about our communication and our relationship. Well, let's really look at the relationship. They should pay attention. Let's look at our taxes, how much the county gets from Deltona. We should not have to be begging for our roads to look halfway decent coming in. We give them large amounts of money. I get we have to, I understand that. But we give them very large amounts of money. We should not be begging for them to fix any of the streets that they own. We should not be begging for them to clean up the entrances to our city. It should be a phone call and they should be on it. That we give them large amounts of money. So, I'm sorry, but Commissioner McCool,
That's
I'm sure
okay.
I'll say more after, but.
That's okay. I would like to state this, as your sitting member on TPO, this has been brought up to FDOT, because FDOT has a say on that. I will tell you that Vice Mayor of Orange City, Bill O'Connor, and I, along with Mayor Chazet of DeBerry, have approached FDOT on that, and they're getting better about that as far as the trash and the waste coming up the ramp. There's also been a looking into, I made the request for them to look into the pond, the lake, as you come off of I-4. We don't know what's under there. Exactly. Is there aquatic life under there? What is that? So that's been asked to, I've asked them to look at that also. And the mayor and vice mayor of our sister cities, adjoining cities at these overpasses agree on that fact. The city of Deltona now, what our responsibility will be is that we have to make the plan. What is it that you want to look like? The county is responsible for the funding, but we're responsible for what is the goal, what is the vision, what do we want it to look like? I know that I've visited other cities. If you go, they have major tax base, but I'm just bringing this up. You know, LPGA, when you go into Daytona, they have monumental, we don't have the tax base to support that, and I think that our public would mostly say that that's frivolous. But beautification of native plants there, we do qualify for federal grants. I don't remember who on our staff we talked about that. I don't remember where the follow-up is with that, but since we're talking about it, I wanted to bring that up. Beautification has been brought up numerous times at TPO. And we need the manpower, staff power to be able to say, what do we want that to look like? FDOT has agreed. I know when Ms. Henson was our rep, agreed that it's something that we should bring up. You know, I would love to see the fence, the prison-looking fence, instead of saying, welcome to the Thunderdome, welcome to Deltona as you come off of Saxon, as we do that. Howland is newer, so there's room to work with that. And I also contacted, by the way, our county commissioner regarding the garbage that is over there at the Halifax Crossings area. I came out of that on my motorcycle, and like, if anybody is riding on two wheels, you don't want to go Graves, Normandy, Howland. It's dangerous there in the middle. Two-wheelers, pedestrian, where's our pedestrian design for that area also? These are things that I'm talking about when I'm so hard on development in that area, is because I'm on two wheels looking at that. I'm looking at where do you cross as a civilian trying to go from one side of Howland to the other to get over to Wawa if you're pedestrian. It's impossible. We already have the highest fatalities of bike and pedestrian deaths here. That should not be our legacy. So the county, I'm sure, and the FDOT is waiting on our design. What do you want it to look like? I would love to see unity ribbons across, colorful fabric across our fence there at the overpass, something that the community does. We have talked about the beautification. We've had Terry Ellis with Deltona Strong. We've been trying to get the okay to design on the transformer boxes and the light boxes that we have here, much like Sanford, much like DeLand. These are things that we can do, but we just need the time and resources to do it. So these have been addressed with FDOT, with TPO, and it is back, the onus is back onto the city of Deltona to present. What are we asking for? We're just basically telling the county we want it to look better, but we're not telling them succinctly what it is we want. So we have to approach in that matter with specific projects, with specific grant ask for those projects. And so that's on us to get our staff, our residents, what is it, and our planner, what is it that we want it to look like? You have to make the ask before we get, but everyone is well aware of that, including our sister cities.
Okay, well, this is the first I hear about this. So I think that the first step would be to bring us all into a meeting, the county, TPO, the city, and residents. And everybody should have a say, but I've been hearing the same thing since Chris Nabik was part of TPO, but I'm hoping that this time they'll come through with it.
Okay.
One other little comment about that. I'm sorry, we have enough on our plate. I think there's some residents in different arbor groups, and let them talk with the city manager and let them figure out what looks pretty. Everything that has to come back to us for a decision of what trees we want, what plants. Guess what? We're still 7 people. We're all going to disagree on what trees, what flowers, what plants. Let the city manager talk with some of these groups, these arbor groups, come up with an idea. It looks pretty. It doesn't always have to come. We're just going to add more stuff to our plate for nothing. This is something he could just make a decision on to make it look pretty. I don't think he's going to put junk cars from the junkyard in there and put flowers around them. I mean, sorry, I'm just, bad example. I mean, you're not going to put trash up there. You're going to look at what makes it look good. Just, because then it's going to come back to us. We're going to argue about it for 3 months, and it's not going to happen anyway. Just come up with an idea and get with the county, please, so it can make it look pretty. That's a simple fix, instead of us arguing about it for 6 months and then it not happening. And then by that time, we'll have another city manager. And just say.
Okay. All right.
Can I
You're
make
pretty
a comment?
comfortable with that?
No.
No, Ted. Oh, okay.
Hey, go ahead.
I just want to make a statement on the record, and that statement is the following. At the staff level, with the county manager, George Rechtenwall, myself, engineering staff, public works, we work very well with the county. We have been talking to them. For an example is, I know it's one of Commissioner Caldwell's things was Elkham and Lake Helen Osteen Road. We had a meeting with the county out on site. They sent a couple of traffic and engineering out, and we discussed what needed to be done there. Since then, we have submitted to St. John's. St. John's is saying that we need a permit. We can't just do it. We have to have a permit. So we're in the process of doing that, and that's one collaboration thing with the county. That's one little thing. I mean, once we get it done, it'll be a big thing, when it rains. So we do work with the county. The county does work with us. We, at staff level at least, I can tell you, we have a good relationship. Mr. Rechtenwall and I go back since I've been here in Deltona since 1998. So we do, and we do communicate. Tad Casbeer with the traffic division engineering, their public works department, Ben Bartlett. We communicate, we talk, we work together. So I just want to make that clear. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of things that still need to be done. I agree with that. I totally agree with that. But we're doing the best we can from a staff level to try to get some of these problems resolved with the county.
Thank you. Okay. Well, I so pretty much agreement with having a citizen group come up with the ideas for that. It is
more on his plate to get flowers, because there's, like I said, there's 7 of us, and we're all going to like different things and want. Just come up, get a consensus. I mean, put it out to the residents. I mean, it's easy to put a poll out there for residents and ask them, hey, does this look okay? Or what would you like to see? Flowers and plants? And you're going to get 60, 80% are going to go with this, and you're going to get 30% going to go. I mean, it's an easy determination. We don't have to overcomplicate every single thing we do in the city. I mean, it's a very simple one. Make them just look pretty.
Let's take that one as a direction out of here. So, okay. Well, we've covered the ground there. I'd like to go around and see if is there any other topic you'd like to discuss here? We have time? Okay. If not, I'd like to begin with the manager. I'd like you to make any closing comments, and then I'll go to the commission. I'll end up with the vice mayor. So, Mr. Manager?
I think I've said too much today. I said I wouldn't interject, but I think it's important for the communication aspect that I have back and forth with the commission sometimes in a public forum. And I appreciate y'all letting me speak, and I'm going to hush so we can get done. And have a great day. Thank you, commissioners, for showing up today, for coming today and making this happen. Thank you.
Mr. Caldwell, final comments.
I think we need to focus on getting our house together immediately.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Focusing on getting our house together should be a priority. We'll need a little more community engagement and things. Other than that, work on our infrastructure, commercial aspects, and so on.
Okay. Good. Commissioner McCool.
I think that I said everything I need to say. I want to thank the staff for the amazing job that they do. They always do. They are the backbone, and the change of everybody else. They remain the constant and hold it together despite our shortcomings. And I would like to thank our city manager for making sure that this happened. You're doing an amazing job, and you have the chill that we need. You are very good for our city. right now in this interim position. You have been really, really responsive. Your pragmatism is catching. And I thank you very much. It's not easy doing what you do it, but you do it humbly. You do it as a true community servant, and I want to thank you for doing that. Importantly, right now, too, is I really value and cherish the back and forth that we were able to have symbolically with our residents here, that they were able to speak, they were able to get immediate feedback, and I think that we need more of that immediate feedback loop in order to assuage stuff festering and growing, and I think that we are on to something today. I'd like to thank them for coming out also, and all of our staff. Chief, I see you back there, all of you guys, thank you so much. Thank all of you. Without this, your constantness, we would not be where we are today, so thank you for the amazing job you do. I can't imagine what it's like trying to run this zoo, but thank you on behalf of part of the zoo, that we really appreciate it. And my fellow commissioners also, is that, you know, we do infight, but at the end of the day, I would 100% believe that we all have the best interest of the city at heart, sometimes in a misguided way, and I'm going to try to be better at what I do. So thank you for being here today. Herb, we appreciate your insight.
Thank you. Bishop?
Thank you. So, again, this was, to me, I found very informational. And I got to tell you that we have gotten so much moving forward in this year. And it's thanks to the staff and thanks to our people who are leading it, which is Glenn and Phyllis and everybody else who's working underneath them, or our directors. And I can believe that, I truly believe on a personal level that this is done because they've been where everybody else staff has been, and they know what needs to be done. And this is, somebody approached me one time and said, oh, you got rid of your city manager. No, we didn't. We just got rid of a position, but the people who did the job are still here, and they know what we're looking for. They know how it needs to be done. So I'd like to thank and congratulate Glenn for doing such a great job moving our city forward the way you've been doing it, and that's because you've been here as long as you say you've been. The staff has been great. Phyllis has been wonderful, and I just got to say that Phyllis has been doing some of the county's job, because when our county roads are dirty and we reach out to her, she sends city staff to take care of it. You know, I have a good time working with our commissioners. I walk out that door and whatever stays here, whatever happens here stays here. I don't take it home with me. I got my own issues at home, but we can do better. I just want to let staff know that, and city residents, somebody asked me how come I don't do my town hall meetings. I stopped doing them because when I do them, there's only 3 people in the audience. And I just got to let you know that the staff that comes to our town hall meetings, like PIO or the back office departments, they've been here since 8 o'clock in the morning. And we keep them over till whatever our town hall meetings go to. And I think it's unfair that we keep them out there till 8 o'clock at night. But if my residents, the city residents or district residents want me to continue or start again with my town hall meeting, I will definitely do that. As you know, I always bring staff to speak at town hall meetings to bring our residents up to date. And I don't have a problem. I will meet with anybody who wants to meet with me to discuss anything in the city. You know, as long as it's not a screaming and fighting match, I don't have any problem meeting with anybody. This has been very productive, and again, I look forward to that report to see where we are at since our last, strategic meeting, to see how much has been accomplished. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, you'll wrap it up.
Residents, you want to say anything? Any of the staff want to say anything? Nobody wants to get up. It's been a good meeting. They said no. I could see over the chair. So this was a good meeting. I liked a little back and forth, a little bit of banter here and there, and it's actually good for us to get it all, hash it all out. I want to thank all the staff. You know, I know I'm I don't want to use all the words that I want to use, but there's some of y'all like me, some of y'all don't. I'm very harsh on people. That's not good. Nobody likes me? I'm good. You know, I'm harsh, and I just want everybody there. Most 90%, 98% of staff, it's awesome. They all do a good job. I don't have, and there's nothing personal. It's when I say stuff, I want this city to move forward. I want things to be better. I am very harsh on how I say things. I say things differently than most people because there's a disconnect between my brain and my mouth that doesn't stop saying what it should. Just a habit. You know, it's good for us to air out our stuff in a meeting like this and get everybody's thoughts in the process out. I want our city to do better. I want it to go forward. I want to stop. I don't want to waste money on frivolous projects. I don't want to make people pay for more things that if we're not doing things. If, as a commission, we bring things up and we get a consensus for something, I want to see that thing move forward. If we get a consensus and we say we want to know about something, I want an answer to it. I don't want to wait 6 months, a year before it comes back to us, because we have seen that through the years over, and things are changing now, which is a good thing, but we've seen it where we've asked for different projects and we don't get answers. You know, things are changing a lot. Glenn has did a very good job at this. He's got the staff behind him. I mean, there's a lot of department heads do an awesome job. People work closely together. The new person that's now in charge of HR is doing an awesome job, and I've had many conversations with her, and you know, I like people are starting to work together, and it's not a power struggle in-house. We still have a few of them little issues, and I'd like to see them worked out, but things are coming together. The city's moving forward. Residents are getting told more. Of course, sometimes they're being told not what they like, but that's the nature of the beast. I'm just glad things are going in a positive role. I'm looking forward to getting another city manager in here. Hopefully he stays, or he or she stays for a long period of time, and we get somebody that's qualified, that has the spine to deal with it. But that's an uphill battle in itself. But I'm glad things are moving the way they are, and I'm happy that things are going forward.
Well, thank you all very much for the opportunity to work with you again. I wish you a good year. I think you're off a good start here, and you've addressed the stuff you need to work on. So thanks. Have a good weekend, whatever's left of it.
And I want to thank Sandy and them for getting food together for everybody that drank all that. It was awesome that the women got office people got the food together. And Glenn, thank you for authorizing that. If that's it.
Yes, sir.
It's adjourned.